Hello and welcome to Play USA to Z's first ever live stream. There are bold experiments in history. America, New Coke. Some work, some don't. But we're going to have to try and figure out if we're going to be in the New Coke camp or the successful representational democracy camp. Yeah, that's not nearly as fun to talk about. But we're going to give it a go, see where we end up. I am Jessica Welman, and I am joined by Play Illinois lead writer Joe Boozell to talk about what's been going on in your state, Joe. Things are making Illinois.
I would say so. Yeah, definitely tough to follow that open. That was really impressive. But yeah, thanks for making me your guinea pig and excited to talk about Illinois today.
Yeah, so we kind of picked Illinois both because I enjoy talking to you, but also because this state, recently celebrated a gaming birthday, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago was when J.B. Pritzker legalized sports betting, and we also greenlit 6 new casinos. So the sports betting part is the big fish, so to speak. June 2020 is when, people started placing bets for all intents and purposes because March is when COVID hit. And so when the bill was written, people were really frustrated because it was only in-person registration, meaning you had to go to a retail sports book in order to sign up. But because of COVID-19, it's obviously kind of a morbid reason, but it really helped Illinois sports betting because in August, J.B. Pritzker had an executive order that made it possible to register online for accounts for 7+ months, and that gave Illinoisans plenty of time to place their sports bets. Since then, it's blossomed into the number 2 sports betting state in the U.S. That was by April numbers. Illinois had about 537.2 million in handle, edging Pennsylvania and Nevada. So that was a big milestone for Illinois, but of course, questions loom because now we have in-person registration again. We don't know when online's going to come back, and nothing's easy here.
No, it is never simple. Just a quick, setting the stage for people who may not know. In-person registration basically means you can sign up 95% of the way on your phone, but then you need to actually physically go to the casino that the app is partnered with and go in and verify you're you and get that done. So, as you've mentioned, we're about a year in, a little over, but we actually only have data through April?
Through April, yes.
Yeah, so, most of that time we actually haven't had in-person registration. So these huge numbers we're seeing basically means you. What's that, Kim? Oops. Pardon the technical difficulty. I'm just going to keep rolling. So, we don't have a lot of data on how things went with IPR because there weren't a lot of sports happening, right? And then casinos by and large were shut down too.
I'll just basically April was our biggest data point because Pritzker ended online registration. I think it was April 4th. So, and we do have April numbers, and that was essentially the first quote unquote normal month in which we've had in-person registration. And so when I saw the numbers, it was a sharp decline from March numbers. It was almost 100 million. So I was like, wow, that was significant. But then you look around at the other states, and the truth is every state dropped a lot in April. It's because March Madness ended. There weren't as many sports to bet on. And so when the dust settled, Illinois actually looked pretty good. They were second. They finished ahead of Nevada and Pennsylvania. And so I looked sort of more into those numbers and why is Illinois maybe better equipped to handle, the quote unquote slow betting months better than other states. And I think baseball is a big reason why. Illinoisans bet about $121 million on baseball in April. The Cubs and Sox are really popular here. I think it was second after basketball, which basketball led in pretty much every state. So in general, I would say, people have to be encouraged by the first month of in-person registration here, which is kind of almost annoying because it's just it's an annoying policy and people should be able to go register on their phones. But, maybe lawmakers are having the last laugh right now. But the thing is, it's only 1 month. And, I'll get to this later probably, but once football season comes, probably in the next few months, it may not be right. We may not see the effects right away, but I think we eventually will see them. And Illinois is definitely capping its potential with the move.
Yeah, I think you're right that come NFL season, where other states that have, had a sharper decline, they're going to have a sharper uptick because they're bringing on new people at probably a pace Illinois can't keep. And if you're, to answer the question, by the way, if you're asking who wants IPR, this goes back to before the law. Casinos have a big say in what these laws kind of look like. They pay lobbyists, they're very involved. And so basically casinos within the state, like Rivers, we believe is kind of the culprit here. Rivers had that casino that it's essentially the closest to Chicago, right? Rivers, is it Des Plaines? Is that how you say it?
It's in Des Plaines. It's about a 20-minute drive from the city. Easy.
So their hope was, okay, if we're the closest to Chicago, certainly we're going to have like a market advantage by being the closest to drive and finish signing up. That hasn't been the case though, right? How has Rivers done so far?
Yeah, Rivers has done fine. Nothing.
Not one or
special.
two though.
Yeah, FanDuel and DraftKings are the clear number one and number two in the market. Rivers is a distant third, but what I always write in my articles is it still has a good sports betting business in Illinois. Like it still makes, I think over $10 million in revenue a month. But I don't think that's because of in-person registration. I think it has a lot more to do with the fact that BetRivers was first to market here by a lot. They launched in June of 2020. They were the only sports betting app for a couple months until August when the FanDuels and DraftKings started launching. So yeah, BetRivers is doing pretty well, but I wouldn't say it's because of in-person registration. I also looked at that for the April numbers because the thinking was, okay, well, they are one of the few sports books that benefits from in-person registration. They were lobbying for it for a reason. PointsBet might as well because their retail sports book is in the Chicagoland area as well. But anyway, getting sidetracked. When I looked at the numbers, BetRivers made up a little bit of ground on FanDuel and DraftKings in April, but their business was down from March, as others were. So if it made any kind of a difference, it wasn't anything significant. So I'm a little confused if is it more about BetRivers succeeding or is it about trying to make sure FanDuel and DraftKings don't? I'm not really sure, but I guess to me, the in-person requirement isn't really benefiting anyone.
No, and I mean, true too, that the entire bill was stacked against FanDuel and DraftKings. There were originally parameters in there that kept them out for, how long was it? Like 2 years?
18 months. And they found loopholes by partnering with casinos / racetracks.
Buying casinos. Okay, fine, we'll just buy a casino.
Casual. Yeah, there's DraftKings at Casino Queen and FanDuel Sportsbook and horse racing. But no, it is pretty crazy to look up now and see that they are by far the two market leaders here when the bill was specifically designed to keep them out.
Yeah. And that, it goes to show you how big nationally DraftKings and FanDuel are. This isn't the only state that, tried to put these limitations in. I'm in Nevada and we still have, and this is more to keep poker stars out, but have kind of bad actor, you have to have a land-based partner kind of rules that prevent, like, it's funny, I'm in the number, are we 4 now?
It's 3. I think they increased in May. I think they may be.
But now you do more sports betting in your state than I do in mine, which actually makes sense because we don't have DraftKings or FanDuel, and we have in-person registration too, which is not. As someone who's done it, it's not fun.
Yeah, I've never registered for a sports book in person. Just throw that out there.
I know you did a lot of Play Illinois stories that are like, hurry up and register, time's running out.
Yeah. And Dave Portnoy was sending out, plea videos like that last day. And you say what you want about Barstool, they really got screwed by this legislation or this decision, perhaps more than anyone. They launched on March 11th, I think it was. And so they had 3 weeks to register people. And they did pretty well. I think they're like 4th or 5th right now with PointsBet. But yeah, 3 weeks to register people, not great when the likes of FanDuel, DraftKings, BetRivers had over 7 months.
Yeah, and I mean, Barstool is kind of known for being a group they rely on, Portnoy and crew kind of coming to Illinois and getting everyone excited. And I don't know how you can compete when, in the meantime, you guys have to head over to Play Illinois. Joe, went to Wrigley Field, and these photos from the subway station that has basically been, it's like a little DraftKings castle, right? Like when you got off the station, what was your response?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I went to Wrigley Field or the Addison DraftKings Castle. Basically, for those not from here, the Red Line is a very popular way to get to Cubs and White Sox games. It's a red train line. You get off at the Addison stop, which is right steps away from Wrigley Field, and double-digit DraftKings ads. They're literally on the stairs. It was nuts. And like, I followed this stuff obviously really closely. I went to the game with the intention of doing a story on, let's see what the experience is like at Wrigley compared to Guaranteed Rate Field, the White Sox. I didn't think that I would have so much material as soon as I got off the train. I kind of assumed that it would be inside of the stadium, which there actually wasn't that much. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting because then I talked to some people with the Cubs who I know, and then they explained to me how the DraftKings retail sportsbook, which will eventually be at Wrigley Field, is going to be located in between that train stop and the stadium. So it makes complete sense why they did that. They brand awareness right away. Oh, go place a bet, go to the game. I think it's kind of smart, but they're not subtle, that's for sure.
Yeah. I would say it's subconscious conditioning that, I'm going to get off at this stop and think of DraftKings, but I feel like it's too overt to be subconscious, Yeah,
it's pretty in your face, but I mean, these companies, they advertise a lot, and give them an inch and they take a mile, as we've seen in Illinois.
So yeah, what has it been like there? Like if you're in Illinois, just say watching a Cubs game on WGN or something, what does it feel like? How much are you just inundated with ads?
Yeah, it's a ton. I would say probably, when online registration was around, it was more, which makes sense because people could watch a commercial and sign up on their phones. But now it's still pretty prevalent. I mean, just going through the teams, you'll watch a Cubs game, and they're on Marquee now, RIP WGN, but Marquee Sports Network.
I'm so old.
Oh, no.
It's like watching Bozo on WGN to daydream right now.
All right. I shouldn't have said RIP. RIP Cubs on WGN,
okay.
But they have their own new network, Marquee Sports, that people are mad about here, but that's a discussion for a different day. But if you watch a Cubs game at Wrigley, I think they have the green screen behind home plate that they can rotate in ads. DraftKings, anecdotally, I would say, is not hard evidence. I think it's the most common sponsor on those behind the plate ads, which are in front of a lot of eyeballs for a long period of time. That's the same way with the White Sox for FanDuel. FanDuel is not an official partner of the White Sox, but same thing. They have an ad in the outfield fence. They have ads behind home plate. But then the White Sox play on NBC Sports Chicago. NBC PointsBet, they have a deal. So commercials, they get a ton of PointsBet, pregame show, PointsBet. During the game, FanDuel. And then you'll watch a Bulls game. FanDuel is on the baseline, like huge logo, can't miss it all game. So there's that, like with the teams themselves, but then, tons of just TV ads. I'll be watching Hulu. Hulu has a ton of DraftKings, Barstool. The one company I never see is William Hill, and I think it's because they're kind of going through identity.
Yeah, the transition with Caesars. And Caesars, I don't think I've seen a Caesars commercial for sports betting ever.
I haven't here, and I think, there's 6 online sports books here. 5 of them I would say advertise a lot, and 1 I never really hear from. That's William Hill / Caesars. Maybe that changes for football season, but that's how it is now. Yeah.
Slightly off topic, but I watch a lot of Hulu myself, and I keep getting, while watching old episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race, BetMGM. I was like, you are really canvassing everybody, aren't you? Like, I would not think this is a sports betting audience, but I mean, do you think that's part of the reason why Illinois got to number 2 so fast? Because I think we've seen ad saturation in other states, but it does seem like it's at a heightened level even compared to that.
Yeah, I think that's got to be part of it. Context is everything. I think these companies realize that online registration might not be around for a long time, so they really struck. They also had a lot of promos that were Illinois specific, which I think was smart, getting people in the door when they could. But I just think, they were really aggressive with their advertising. But again, you just combine the sheer amount of people that are here with the amount of sports fans there are. And it's just kind of there's a reason Illinois is a really attractive market if it can get out of its own way. I mean, it's done a lot wrong, and it's still the number 2 sports betting market as in April, probably will be for the next couple months. So yeah, I think advertising maybe is just more effective here because it's a more receptive audience and more eyeballs on it.
Yeah, I think too, you said they kind of shoot themselves in the foot in Illinois. It's not just IPR, it's other stuff too. Namely, I know March Madness, we did a Judge Jessica, if you guys want to go see that, on like between Virginia and Illinois, who had it worse not being able to bet on their teams in March Madness. Illinois didn't do great in March Madness, but #1 overall seed, that's money on the table for sports books, right?
Yeah, plenty. And so there in early 2021, the House introduced a bill that would repeal the in-state college betting ban. That didn't pass, but an amended version did pass in the House a few weeks ago. The stipulation, of course, Illinois has this fetish with in-person betting / registration. And yeah, the version that passed the House would make people go to retail sports books, casinos, racetracks, etc., in order to bet on the likes of Illinois, Northwestern, Loyola. So that's a thing that happened.
The things that come up with, we want someone who, here's a myth too for you folks at home. The idea that betting online is somehow you can protect your identity and hide who you are and be secretive about what you're doing, it's really the exact opposite. In a retail book, Joe or myself can walk up, and if I'm just betting like $200, they're not going to card me. They're not going to ask to see ID. Unless they want to verify your age, but you can just do that. And there's no tracking if you've bet that game 5 other times, but on your phone, on the app, they have when you logged in, when you logged out, what lines you looked at, what you clicked on, how many times you bet. So it's so funny and archaic that these gaming commissions like Illinois believe that somehow you're protecting people by making them go in person, and that somehow maintaining the integrity of the game.
Yeah, preach. When we were able to register online, they asked for your social. That's kind of, they asked for a lot of information about you. So I think it's a pretty secure process. We haven't heard of any problems here or elsewhere that I'm aware of, but yes, thank you for that context.
Know your customer, KYC. Protocols for online betting are in every state. They're intense.
Yeah, exactly. So that passed the House. I was watching, so it had to obviously pass the Senate and then get the governor's signature to become law. I was watching the Senate hearing on the last day of the session, and they were kind of busy like renaming bridges and roads and stuff, and just never really got to it. And then I was thinking, sometimes we in sports betting media kind of forget that there's a lot of other stuff, a lot of other things that these legislatures deal with. So they actually never got to it. Our Matt Cornell reported, he talked to one of the state senators who said they just didn't have enough time to read the bill. And so I'm sure you're wondering, where does that leave us now? So they're supposed to reconvene for a veto session in October, which would be in the middle of college football season, which is not great like you would hope that it would have been before college football season. But the good news that came from Cordell's piece is that there is optimism that the Senate will remove the in-person part of it. So so that's it's possible, nothing firm or anything, but there may be some legislative or some Senate momentum to take away the in-person part of that bill, which would just give us a full. Well, the other part of that bill is that you can only do you can't do live betting or prop bets. And prop bets I could see. The live betting is interesting, but I think that's also tied to being in person.
Yeah, and that's normal in other states too, especially like individual props, and
sure,
that seems reasonable. Like I think asking someone who to want to bet on like the over under of how many points a 19-year-old point guard at Northwestern scores is probably a bet no one needs to be making.
For sure, yeah. And so I can see that, definitely. But yeah, so it's possible in October that the Senate will come back with a version of this bill that doesn't have in-person tied to it, which would be great. And then Illinoisans would have the last couple months of college football season and then college basketball season to bet on their teams. I don't think Illinois or Loyola will be as good as they were last year, so kind of a missed opportunity there. But it seems to be heading in the right direction. But I know Representative Zaleski, who authored the House bill, he was hopeful this would be in place before college football, and it's not, and he's disappointed about that, as are many Illinois bettors.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois and gaming, I feel for you, because I feel like so much of what you write is like, this was supposed to happen, it's taking a while. And what is so true is sports betting is a big piece of this. But going back to the beginning of the discussion, the 2-year anniversary of this bill that also greenlit 6 casinos, and we haven't seen much of anything out of that part of it, have we?
Oh no, that's even worse. There have been 0 final approvals out of these 6. 2, there's just so many steps that I barely know what they mean. 2 have been found preliminarily suitable, which I think is sort of, it's like a soft green light. The red's turning green. I don't know what that is, but yeah, it's so 2 have been found preliminarily suitable. One's a Hard Rock in Rockford, the other's in Southern Illinois, Williamson County. And then there's 4 licenses up for grabs. Mainly of interest is downtown Chicago, but I don't think we're going to see that casino for several years, because that's kind of on the city. They've gone at a really slow pace themselves, but yeah, it's been, everything just takes a long time. And it was especially frustrating because a lot of these development groups / casinos, or prospective casinos, they applied in October of 2019, and some of them still don't have an answer. It's July 2021 now. They were supposed to have a decision within a year, but the law said basically, yeah, if they want to, but they can also kick the can down the road, which they have. Yeah, it just seems like the Illinois Gaming Board, they receive a lot of criticism. I think from my perspective, it looks like they might just kind of be understaffed and have a lot to do.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, sports betting is now this huge number 2 business in the nation. That being their focus makes sense. You're right that a casino getting vetted, it takes a long time. You have to vet all the stakeholders, and there's all these pieces to it. But this is not a state where casinos are new. It's not like Virginia, where they've never vetted a casino before. So it is interesting that it's going so slow. I almost think that area around Chicago is just kind of cursed, because if you go over to play Indiana, Joe's colleague Jake Garza, he has to write similar stories endlessly about the Hard Rock casino woes of Terre Haute and Gary. These casinos, there's always something the matter. The license is always like on the verge of being suspended, and nothing's going to get started. So maybe it's just like bad juju in that region of the world, because other than Horseshoe Hammond, we recently found out Caesars doesn't have to divest from that, but that's what the only good casino news coming out of that part of the country, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the crime beat here. I think Jen, shout out to Jen Montgomery. I think in our Slack, like a couple of months ago, it was just crime story after crime story. And speaking of which, I have a big thing on Brian Urlacher's brother coming out.
Yeah, what's going on with Casey Urlacher?
Next week. Oh, he's the mayor of Mattawa, I don't know how to pronounce it, Illinois. He got elected mayor after Donald J. Trump pardoned him for his involvement in an illegal gambling scheme.
It's making the most of his second chance, you know?
Yeah. What I found interesting in researching that story is I think it was the prosecuting attorney made reference to someone we all know being involved in this story. So I'm not going to throw out any names. It is Brian Urlacher's brother, though. I'm not saying it's him. I mean, that's like the first place you're going to look. So yeah, we'll have more on the crime beat, of course, because it's just every week's more corruption.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to end on a note you're probably not excited to talk about. What's going on with the Bears?
I'm probably going to surprise you. I don't mind it.
Okay. So you got Justin Fields.
I'll tell people what's going on. But are you referring to the Arlington Park thing or just the team?
Just in general, what's going on with the Bears? Anything to look forward to for them, you know?
Right on. Well, I'm excited about the team because of Justin Fields. That's pretty much all, though. If he's good, that's great. If not, very depressing. More closer to our beat, though, which is interesting, is that the Bears are trying to buy Arlington International Racecourse in Arlington Heights, assuming the intent would be to move their operations there and to move out of Soldier Field. So the Bears to the burbs could happen. Assuming if this happened, they would build like a mega stadium, entertainment districts, be able to host Super Bowls, which they don't now, Final Fours,
Yeah.
College football playoffs. So I think it's exciting. There's a train that goes out there. It's really hard to get to Soldier Field here. And yeah, I'm writing about it today. There's some smoke because the Bears just became partners with Bettors. Like that's their official sportsbook partner now. Churchill Downs is in charge of this sale. Churchill Downs also has a majority stake in Rivers Casino. So it's pretty curious, I would say. Yeah, my spidey senses are correct. So yeah, we're keeping updated on that, but I think that's really interesting. Off the field, on the field, it's just my whole personality is Justin Fields. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, you can be sure to check into playillinois.com to find out about what's going on with the Bears in Arlington. I think you've got a Justin Fields story up recently on his kind of rookie of the year odds and Bears odds. And in general, it's just a site that has everything you need to know about what we've been talking about. So with that in mind, you go check out playillinois.com. And in the meantime, Joe and I will see you next